One of the guys the Giants have been potentially, rumored to be interested in. We were interested last year. Russell Wilson. Is he off the table now? And that's because of some quotes that came out recently. First off, talking about the Steelers at the end of the season, he said, obviously this year was an exciting year in a lot of ways. It was tough at the end, obviously. We didn't get it done, but I've got more in me, man. I'm excited. My goal is to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers for a long time. Hopefully finish my career there, God willing. I'm just trusting God and the process. Yeah, and that was on the Pat McAfee Show, guys. So it's like, wasn't like a random quote he said, after the season when he was just the heat of the moment. No, this was something he said when he was just calm, collected in an interview. He also was asked about if they've already talked about him coming back next year. And he said, yes, we have kind of started to talk a little bit. Obviously, we have our meetings and everything else. We're kind of just getting into it. I think an exciting time, obviously, to be a Pittsburgh Steeler and the opportunity of what we can do. I think at the same time, Omar Khan and Coach Mike Tomlin, I really love those two and who they are and the team we can put together. So, yeah, it sounds like Russell Wilson wants to stay a Steeler. Now, Mike Tomlin was obviously asked about it at the end of the season. Let's be honest, this is one of the biggest offseason moves for the Steelers is, are they going to keep Wilson or they keep Fields and they try to keep both, which I think is probably impossible. Do they keep neither one and go crazy and do something completely off the walls? Who knows? Tomlin says, we're certainly open to considering Wilson and Fields, but there's a lot of work ahead of us. The major work obviously starts first and foremost with just understanding what our options are, what the field looks like in terms of free agency, what the draft pool looks like. So that's the interesting part is Russell Wilson's like, I want to stay a Steeler for life. I want to be there. Let me stay in Pittsburgh forever. And there's Tomlin going, we're going to look at our options.
Yeah, I was about to say, you can't really say he's off the table because he's saying he wants to be there for life.
Yeah.
But does that mean Pittsburgh wants them to?
But it sounds like they basically, if they offer him a deal, he's going to take it.
Yeah.
That's basically what it sounds like. And that's why we're saying like he could very well be off the table as an option. Now, the nice thing is, if that happens, you got to think Justin Fields is available. And that's what I'd prefer. He's younger. He has, room for growth at that point there. He actually, if you want to be honest, looked better when they played him at the beginning of the season. Looked a lot better than he looked at as a Bear. That's for damn sure. Not that saying much, but yeah, I think he has the potential. Now, Russell Wilson, though, on the other end of it, is that veteran presence. He's that guy that if we do draft a Sanders, Ward, or whoever, could be that guy to kind of take them under his wing, and do that. But as long as he doesn't teach them phrases like let's ride, that's the big thing. Like I think marketing wise, we can keep him out of that, like the Mr. Unlimited thing and all that kind of stuff. Like he just doesn't have that in him. But as a player, listen, if you were to draft a player right now and tell me, hey, Russell Wilson is going to take this kid under his wing and he's going to make him a little Russell Wilson, basically. Obviously, figuratively speaking, because Russell Wilson's already little, you can't make him any smaller.
He's really tiny. He's
But if you told me you're going to get a guy and he's going to potentially have, that kind of guy teaching him the way, like, if we drafted a quarterback in this draft and he became the next Russell Wilson, you'd be ecstatic. Russell Wilson, I would say probably, and I don't want to overstate it because I don't think it's a definite thing, but he's a borderline Hall of Fame quarterback, I think. He's a guy with some consideration. I'm not sure if he gets in or not, but he'll get consideration for it at the very least.
Definitely very good.
Yeah, goes to 2 Super Bowls, wins 1, should have won the second if it wasn't for Pete Carroll and that stupid pass play. And overall was one of the better teams in his prime. And his offenses that he was in were always very good, minus the first year in Denver.
Yeah, I was going to say, he comes out of the draft and, he goes literally him way back in the draft. Yeah. Russell Wilson. Yeah, he comes out of the draft and literally he's in the Super Bowl, a couple of years later.
Yeah. Now there was an interesting story I saw on TikTok of the day. Luckily it's back. So John Gruden who, listen, fan or not of John Gruden, and listen, I'm not going to get into the pros and cons of John Gruden because that's a whole topic of its own right there. But the guy knows football. I think no matter whether you like him or not, you have issue with the emails, whatever, he knows football. I don't think that's up for debate. When he was doing his ESPN stuff, they asked him, because he's now at Barstool Sports, they asked him point blank, when you did all these meetings with these quarterbacks, who's the one guy that you weren't impressed with? And he refused to answer that part of the question. But he said, you know who I was really impressed with? Flipped it, which I like, with a little positivity. He said, Russell Wilson. He's like, Pete Carroll actually called me up and asked me about Russell Wilson. And I said point blank, because they got Matt Flynn at the time. They got a couple of guys in there to be their quarterback already. And they were thinking about it. And he said, listen, point blank, you bring in Russell Wilson, he will beat out the guys you have in that roster right now, and you will never regret that decision. He has that drive, he has that mentality, and he's going to be that good. If you can get a guy like that to go ahead and be a guy that could be, a mentor for someone, especially get a mid-round guy instead, like a Jackson Dart or somebody like that, or a Will Howard, or whoever you want to talk about there, that can teach him that kind of mentality. Like, hey, listen, I'm here. Look what I did in my career. I was a third-round pick.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a top 10 pick to be a star in this league. Prove it. You get the chance. Like I said, again, I prefer Fields over him. But there's definitely some pros to having Russell Wilson, I think, on this roster, especially as a bridge-style kind of quarterback there. And if the Steelers don't get him, he's an interesting option. But like I said, it kind of stinks because he's publicly out there now saying, I want to be a Steeler. And you know what the biggest problem I have with that is now? Good luck coming into a press conference if you get signed by somebody else saying, I wanted to be here the whole time. That was a media issue on his part, I think. He shouldn't have said that. You gave the Steelers all the cards, and you made it look like wherever you go, if you don't go to the Steelers now, it's your silver medal. You didn't really want to be there. You're only there because the Steelers didn't want you.
Yeah.
I'm right. Whether it affects that much long term, no. But at the very beginning, it's at least going to be a little bit awkward. Because the questions will come in for the media and all saying point blank, you wanted to be a Steeler. They didn't want you. How do you think about that?
I mean, he's a very religious guy. All he has to do is say it's God's plan, and no one's going to question him.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, you don't need to say stuff like that. You don't. You say it behind closed doors all you want. All players do it all the time, especially when you're talking to the team. Like, listen, I want to come back here. But when you're in front of the cameras and you got the media in front of you, I'd love to go back to Pittsburgh. I had a great time there. We'll have to see what the future holds. And you just shut up. Like I said, maybe media is not what he should be teaching the young quarterback we get.
No, definitely not.
I mean, that and the Mr. Unlimited. Like, he needs to not be part of that. But
Unlimited.
Playing wise, he's an upgrade over anybody else that we have in the roster last year. He is a guy who, again, could be a good mentor. And if we get him, I'm not upset. But I kind of hope the Steelers do get him, because that means Justin Fields will probably not stick around.
Yeah.
If you're Justin Fields and you get the option to start on a team like the Giants, and I'm not just saying the Giants, there's the Raiders, other teams as well that'll probably try to get him. But if you have a team like the Giants that's calling you up and say, listen, we're going to give you a chance to start here, of course you're going to take that over going back to Pittsburgh, and they're telling you point blank Russell Wilson was signed to be the starter. Yeah. Because I don't think Russell Wilson signs if he's not named the starter right off the bat.
No, probably not.
So
if you like that clip, then you will love the full episodes too. Find us on your favorite podcast app and look for us on all your favorite social media platforms.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please,